Welcome back to the Pelvic Health Summit. I'm your host, Hannah Matlock, and we are here today with Shannon Cohn, a documentary producer and director. Shannon most recently released a documentary called EndoWhat, which can be watched on EndoWhat.com. I recently watched this documentary this past week, and it really is incredible. So I'm excited to be here today and speak with you about the entire process of this documentary. Thanks for being here.
Great, thanks for having me.
So can you first tell us what inspired you to create this film?
Wow, this film was a long journey in the making, I guess. I am a filmmaker. I'm a lawyer as well. And when I started making films like 10 years ago, I went to film school at NYU and went into working at a production company in Soho. And we made all types of documentary films. And I did a travel series for Discovery Channel. So definitely outside of the purview of women's health. But I have endometriosis. So it's always been on my radar as a patient, but also as an advocate, because it's a disease who I'm sure many people watching this know is, it's an enigmatic disease that affects a large number of women. So as a filmmaker, I thought a film could be a particularly interesting way to approach the disease, not only to educate patients, but to even possibly change progress in the disease, to make progress in the disease in a much larger way than just like a one hour film.
And you had an incredibly reputable group of doctors and endometriosis specialists, along with amazing patients interviewed in the documentary. So can you touch upon how you got connected with this network of people?
Absolutely. Well, you know what? That was actually one of the easiest parts. I found that just reaching out to, every single doctor and specialist that I reached out to responded positively and said, yes, let's talk about this. Yes, this is so needed. We need to have a conversation about endometriosis in a large way for, the masses, basically, not only just for patients. So I just reached out to all of the different specialists. We scheduled interviews, and as I kept interviewing people, it was, every interview someone would say, who you need to talk to. You need to talk to this person, and they would help facilitate that interview. So it happened very organically and in a positive way, and the way it should have been.
That's amazing. And I found through my own work as well, I have a podcast on pelvic pain, pelvic health. It's called the Women's Pelvic Health Podcast. And when I connect with doctors and different specialists in the field of pelvic health, they're always so receptive and so willing to be a part of it. And a lot of people ask me a similar question: how do you get these doctors on the podcast? And are they charging you? And and I always say they are so happy to share their knowledge and their expertise, because this is what they do for a living, and they want to help people who need their help. So
right. I found that most people who work in women's health, particularly, I was going to say healthcare, but absolutely in women's health, are there because they're passionate about it and they want to go beyond the day-to-day, 9 to 5, and really make a difference in women's lives.
Totally. And I think that this documentary, I know that it is and it will continue to have such a large impact on women suffering from endometriosis, and will really help facilitate more awareness around the disease, and most importantly, help women get diagnosed earlier and help practitioners to diagnose their patients earlier. So I would assume that a large part of this is the distribution of the film. So how are you and your team going about distributing this film in order to reach the most amount of patients and practitioners possible?
Yeah, that's a great question, and something that's near and dear to my heart. I actually have a specific passion for distributing films and stories, and that played nicely into this film. And so basically, the biggest way when we released the film, we partnered with nonprofits around the world, actually, in the UK, and Australia, New Zealand, in Africa, Asia, Canada, and then also within the United States, to hold special screenings in which we would show the film and then also have a Q&A afterward. where we had local experts, talk to the audience members who are mainly patients, but also healthcare providers about issues raised in the film. And I was really heartened to see that from those conversations, a lot of patients started on this path of receiving effective treatment for the disease. So we started with that, and then we've extended that into other types of hosted community screenings so that patients themselves can host screenings, which we've seen. I mean, this year we had in March for Endometriosis Awareness Month, we had several screenings, and oh goodness, I'm trying to think now, in Dallas and Baltimore and Portland and in Europe. And so that's, it just keeps going. I found that this film is definitely something that every year, introduces itself to a new audience because the information is still, needed out there. And we're trying to work to change that so that we can continue the message of the film online and also with our nonprofit partners, but also change policy around the disease so that maybe the film won't be as needed one day because then everybody will know these things. That's the ultimate hope.
And I saw on the EndoWhat website the component where you can purchase a license to be able to screen the film in front of a larger audience. And I even thought, I was like, I should do this here in New York. I'm sure so many people in New York have done that already, but the more people that invite an audience to watch the film, the better. It's really a creative way to distribute it.
Yes, and we've had a lot of success with that. It's been really great. And then, I don't know, but I don't know if you know this, but we're actually in the post-production on a second film about the disease. And it's quite different from EndoWhat in that it's a character-driven film. It's more of a traditional documentary, whereas EndoWhat is straight informational. And this film is, 80 to 90 minutes. It follows 4 women with the disease at different ages. We follow them over several years. They live in different parts of the world. And the idea there is to show the real day-to-day impact this disease has on their life, despite their age, their race, their socioeconomic status, their nationality. And that's been really eye-opening, and we're excited to release that later this year.
That's amazing. I can't wait to watch it. And another question that I have for you is, in addition to all of the patients who are going to be viewing this summit, there's also a pretty large amount of practitioners. So coming from the research that you've done and all of the knowledge and understanding of this disease that you have, what is some advice that you could give to practitioners in order to help them realize the early symptoms that their patients might have and to just give them a better understanding of how to diagnose endometriosis earlier?
I would say the biggest piece of advice is to be open to the idea that everything you know about endometriosis is wrong. Everything that you've learned about endometriosis in medical school, in continuing education, through ACOG practice bulletins, through practice bulletins with your specialty, it could be wrong. And we're slowly changing the educational model within endometriosis, but it's slow going. Institutional resistance to change is pretty strong, but we are seeing it. So I would say be open to that, be open to looking beyond the textbook or the continuing education into patient forums to learn anecdotally about patients that actually reveals a huge amount of metadata about the disease, and also to listen to your patients and if they are saying they're in pain and it's cyclical, or if things aren't quite adding up, listen to them. I think that their diagnosis is within their history, and that's my second, I guess, most important piece of advice.
And something that I've found, I'm not a practitioner, but just in talking to so many women who have endometriosis and various forms of pelvic pain, I have learned that the most important thing is to acknowledge women's pain. And when they're going to doctors and doctors are telling them that this is normal, it's in fact not normal. So if anyone is coming into a doctor's office with pain, that pain has to be investigated.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. I mean, that's endometriosis, women's pelvic issues, but really anything. And it seems disproportionately affecting women for whatever, types of illnesses. A good friend of mine was diagnosed with Lyme disease recently, and she also faced the same, unending journey of doctor after doctor who maybe told her that she was exaggerating or things were in her head. So I think women just have to be armed with that knowledge that that risk is out there, and to not take no for an answer, and to keep pushing and to keep finding a doctor who listens to them.
Definitely. And what are some things that surprised you the most throughout producing this film?
Oh, wow. I'm continually surprised by this disease because I'm still learning about it. And it seems like the more I learn about it and the deeper I go, the more I realize I don't know anything, which I should know a lot by now. Yes, I'm not an MD, but as a patient advocate, after 6 years of being with endometriosis, I should know a lot. And I do, but, there's a lot of politics in this disease that I didn't know about. And I really think that's probably one of the biggest impediments to progress, unfortunately. But if we can get people to work together, not only within individuals, but also organizations, to really put the patient first and work together, then I have a lot of hope for the disease for the future.
That's wonderful. And I think that more and more everyone is starting to realize the advocacy and awareness and prevalence of this disease and how necessary it is for this work to be done. So as you said, I think that this is going in the right direction.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, it's with a lot of diseases. Like, if you want to change the status quo, you have to look and like who's okay with the status quo, who's the status quo hurting. And a disease like endometriosis, the status quo, where you go an average of 10 years to diagnosis, usually women go through multiple treatments that are ineffective, multiple surgeries, and end up with maybe a hysterectomy. Who's being harmed in that situation? It's the patient. So if we want to see change, the patients are the ones who have to lead it.
And it's also so important, just to touch upon that, is to be your own advocate. And that's the most valuable and important power you have as being a patient, is to be able to stand up for yourself and to advocate for yourself. You know your own body better than anyone else's, and you know when something's wrong, and to just go with your gut and really not stop until you have received what you believe is proper treatment.
Yeah, I think, we as patients, no matter actually anyone, whatever sex, we have, a tendency to put doctors on a pedestal and to kind of feel disempowered in that relationship and feel like, no, the doctor knows best. And, who am I to question a doctor, when really it should be more of a partnership, where the doctor, of course, imparts his or her knowledge, but the patient also is an equal partner in that relationship and brings her experience and her point of view to it, so they can actually get to an answer. So I would definitely tell patients, with whatever health condition, to feel confident in your symptoms. Don't doubt yourself, and don't doubt that what you have to say to your doctor is valid and important, and just as important as what they may have to share as well.
For sure. And is there any other advice that you could give to patients or practitioners listening that are involved in endometriosis?
Oh, wow. I would say educate yourself, educate yourself, educate yourself. Watch the film, which I'm not just saying that because I made the film, but I do believe it's a really good resource to get started. The idea was, it's not, an end all be all to endometriosis. It's to give you a base of knowledge to then start your journey so that you can start being proactive in your health. There are a lot of really great Facebook groups for patients that I would recommend. One is Nancy's Nook, another is Endometriosis, and another is Endo Warriors. And those are, tightly regulated by admins. And I would totally trust sending any patient to one of those groups to help them find more individualized advice for whether it's surgeons or doctors or medication, or, different types of remedies like PT or diet, acupuncture, things like that. A patient can go there to find answers. And that's one of the biggest things. I think that's probably the biggest advice I would give to a patient, is to go online and find answers, and the resources are there. you can start there. I would also share that, we have a nonprofit, and the website is EndoWhat.org. And it's a little bit different from the film website, and it talks a lot about these larger issues, the social, action issues around the disease, and it shows ways that patients can get involved, as well as being an educational resource. And we're working with Senator Elizabeth Warren and Senator Mitt Romney to advance a lot of policy objectives. I think it's probably one of the only bipartisan initiatives in Congress right now, especially dealing with women's health. And they've just written a letter to the Senate Appropriations Committee on our behalf, asking for more funding for endometriosis research for fiscal year 2020. We got at least $6 million for endometriosis research in fiscal year 2018 due to this partnership. So hopefully we get more so that we can find the answers to this disease, that would benefit all of us.
Amazing. And for everyone watching and listening, if they wanted to get in contact with you, and again, where can they watch the film?
They can watch the film at EndoWhat.com. And if they want to learn more about our initiatives, you can go through EndoWhat.com, but the website there is EndoWhat.org.
And can you tell us about some other initiatives that EndoWhat.org is currently working on?
Absolutely. One of the biggest initiatives, our largest priority this year, is actually the school nurse initiative, because there's that long delayed diagnosis right now of average of 10 years. So the goal is, if we can get these girls diagnosed when they first exhibit symptoms when they're teenagers, then it would go a long way in decreasing that long delayed diagnosis and a lot of the damage, done to a girl's body by the time she's in her 20s and 30s can be mitigated. So our goal is to educate 10,000 school nurses in the United States this year. We're going to different school nurse conferences. We're screening the film. We just screened the film in California for their state school nurse conference. And the film was part of their program for over 600 school nurses in attendance. And we've also been to Florida. We're going to Utah and to New England, to the National School Nurse Conference. And I've talked already, this year to hundreds of school nurses one-on-one, just talking to them about endometriosis, trying to understand what may be some of the barriers to getting girls diagnosed and getting effective treatment. And we're learning so much. And it's given us a lot of hope for the effectiveness of this program. So we'll continue rolling that out through the rest of the year. And if someone would actually like to bring a school nurse toolkit to their local school nurse, whether middle or high school, they can go to our website at endowhat.org and read about the initiative. And also there's a place where they can donate.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you again for being here and for producing this wonderful film and doing all of the phenomenal work and research that you are doing. And I think it's so cool to have a video on such an important women's health issue. As you said, there's so much research online, and there is research and ways to learn about the disease, but it's different when you can actually sit down and watch a film and hear doctors be interviewed and patients speak, and it allows you to understand the disease in a different way. So I really thank you for doing this.
Yeah, thank you.
And if you can relate to this video, please leave a comment below and share it with anyone else who you think may benefit. Thank you.